What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I'm Sean, for those of you who don't know me, and this is V-Twin Revolution, where, well, sometimes I bring you home, sometimes I bring you to work. Either way, you get to learn about cool Harley stuff. So if you want to keep learning about cool Harley stuff, just give that a big greasy thumbs up. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and I'll keep putting content out for you guys. So, obviously, we're in the new shop space, V-Twin Revolution Studios. I don't know if I want to call it that. Last place was kind of sentimental, the shop shed. I kind of need a new name for the shop. So why don't you do that? Comment down below. What do you think I should call the new shop? Something catchy, because I like catchy. We tonight are going to be learning how to do a coolant flush on our really 14 and later up to 23. I'll explain the 14 and later why I kind of went but we're going to do a coolant flush tonight on a 22 Road Glide Limited, and without me continuing to just jabber, because some of you guys are just nasty and you're like, you talk too much. Get over it. So this is actually going to be a pretty quick video. There's really not a whole lot to doing a coolant flush. Just a couple of little tricks that you may not know that I'm going to help you out with, because, well, that's why you're here. You're here to learn about cool Harley stuff and learn about the tricks of the trade. We're going to get the lower coolant pump cover off so that we can gain access to the hose that we need to. So here, we'll break. All right, I'm here. So basically all you're going to do is just grab and then just pop that off and then lift up, and then you can get that out of the way. That then uncovers the coolant pump, your hoses, and all the electrical connectors. So we'll get a pan under this, and then I've got a tool that I'm going to show you guys. So I love tools. It's just like crack for me. So when I find something that actually makes my job easier, well, I usually overspend for it. Thank you, Snap-on. Anyways, actually I think this was Mac. Yeah, all right, thank you, Mac. So this is a spring clip declipinator. That is the proper term, declipinator. I don't really know what the name of it is. All I know is it releases a spring clip so that you can get it off. I'm going to show you how to use it, but I will link this in the description below where you can find it. It's probably going to be an Amazon tool. It still works. You don't need to pay $147.52 and then the college fund for his kids for this. It's not worth it. All right, so prior to starting this job, usually what I'll do is I'll gain access to the reservoir bottle and the filler neck. So all you got to do is just stick your fingers behind it, pop that off. That comes off. There's your reservoir bottle, the overflow hose that goes to your reservoir bottle from your filler neck. And you just kind of gently pull on that, get it to come out. So now this is, you can do it two ways. If you have a vacuum sucker, bleeder, whatever you want to call it, you can suck out what's in the reservoir bottle. Or what you can do is you leave the cap on, and then when you take the hose off at the coolant pump, what happens is the suction from it draining will actually draw what's in the reservoir bottle out, and it'll drain. And then you can take your filler neck, your radiator cap off, whatever you want to call it. So, but because this doesn't have any, you can see that, it doesn't have any coolant in it, I'm just going to take the cap off. I'm going to tell you something. Y'all, this cap can be a bitch sometimes. Wait, did I say bitch? Yeah.
I looked this woman in her optic scams, and I says, bitch.
You said that.
Ain't nothing but a thing.
But you said bitch, though.
Yep.
All right, so sometimes this thing can be a real pain. So you just basically, I'll get my hands underneath it, a lot of pressure down. There. That really came off the first time. All right, so now we'll move down and I'm going to show you how to use that tool. Basically, you get it on the spring clip, and then that's got a little tooth holder so that you're not, and then you just pinch it, move it out of the way, and then you can relieve the pressure, and then you can get your hose off. So let's show you how that works. All right, get you a suitable pan. And then you're going to take and you're going to put your spring clip declipinator on there. You squeeze, and that just basically spreads that out to where all you got to do is just walk that off to the side, relieve the pressure, and then it's done. Now all we got to do is get the hose off. Take your hose, just wiggle it a little bit. And then you just let that drain. Now more is going to come out here in a minute, and then we're going to put some air to it and actually blow in on this while covering our hand with the filler neck so that it actually blows air up, in, through, and around the heads and actually gets out what's left. See, now we got more coming out. So basically what you're going to do, you just take some air, stick your air gun in that hose.
That's what she said.
Michael, please.
There he is.
Please.
Mwah! There he is.
And blow light pressure. And if you make a mess like that, you're fine. We'll make sure that we get as much of that old coolant out as we possibly can. And I have just absolutely drenched myself. So now once this is done, just take and slide your hose back on. Get your declipinator and find out where it was. Slide it back in spot. Release the tension. And boom. We're good. So these next couple angles might be a little bit tricky to show you. So I'm going to walk you through it as I'm doing it because you're going to be pretty much staring at the back of my head. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm pouring like this, but see, you can only see my hand. So I don't have no movie magic for you guys. Make sure you have your Harley-Davidson coolant. It is the pink stuff or orange, whatever color that is, really. I have seen people put green in it. I guess if you're really in a pinch on the side of the road or whatever, you've lost a bunch of coolant or you got a coolant light on, in a pinch, if you can use that, I guess that's okay. But as soon as you get to a dealership, you need to get that flushed out and use the proper coolant. So we're going to fill this up, and it's kind of bubble a little bit, so kind of like wait for all the bubbles, and then we're going to engage the cooling fans and the coolant pump. This is the process that actually takes the absolute longest. Just because right now you're filling and you're letting the air kind of escape past and around it. I'll usually grab a hold of the hoses, kind of squeeze them a little bit, kind of force some of the air out. Okay, so Now to engage the coolant pump and the cooling fans, make sure you've got your bike on a tender, nothing less than a 5 amp. I stand by it. It's the way it is. Just, it's the way it is. What you're going to do is you're going to take your throttle and you're going to roll it full throttle. Then while you've got this rolled to full throttle, you're going to turn your ignition switch to on. Wait for it. Now, that's engaged both fans and the coolant pump. And that is circulating the coolant. And it's going to push a lot of air out. You're going to end up with like frothy looking bubbles. I will show you that here in just a minute. Alright, so the frothy looking bubbles I was telling you about is that. What I'll do then is I'll shut it off and then I'll let those bubbles kind of dissipate. And let the system, like all the bubbles that are within the system in the radiator, let all those bubbles kind of go away, and then you see it's going to drop down in the filler neck, and you are going to just wait a few minutes and then you'll be able to add some more coolant. All right, so I'm going to repeat this process several times, filling it up with the coolant pump on and the fans on. And then let it sit, shut it off, let the bubbles go away. And then basically when I get to the end, I'll show you what you kind of want it to where it's just coolant. And it takes a while, so be patient with it. Like, don't just think just because you got it to a certain point. Like, you need to make sure that all the bubbles are out. Because when you go to fill up your reservoir bottle, as this thing requests, as the pressure drops and it needs more coolant, it will pull out of the coolant reservoir. So you want to make sure that your actual system is completely full before you put the cap on and before you top off your reservoir bottle. So as we start getting closer to the end of the coolant flush, like, your bubbles that you're seeing should start to look like this. Just very small. Oh, there, that's better. Very small. You're still getting some coming up, and again, it's still just repeating the same process, letting your coolant pump run and then shutting it off, and then more bubbles will come up, and you just kind of let it sit and let it settle. Let those bubbles that are in there just kind of pop and create more space for coolant. And then when I go to like turn this back on and energize the pump, I guarantee you that that level will go down a little bit. So we'll wait a minute and then we'll see. All right, so we are going to be pretty close to being done. So again, you hold your throttle wide open, turn it to ignition switch, and then this is what we should see. See how all those bubbles still came out. So we're going to add a little bit of coolant. And again, y'all, this is kind of a boring process. That's why I'm really only sparing you towards the end. And then I'll take and I'll pop some of those bubbles with my finger. And I'll shut it off and let it relax again. This is probably going to be pretty close to being done. One more time of turning it on and energizing the pump, and it probably is pretty close. I'll then top off the reservoir bottle. Oh shoot, got me in here looking like a dang dummy. Got this chest rig on. There ain't no length that I won't go to get the right shot for you guys. I really do try hard sometimes. And, well, while looking like a dang goober out here in the friggin' garage with the chest rig on, I'm literally doing like this. If you could only see another camera angle of what I was doing. Yeah. Anyways. So, once we're done with the coolant in the filler neck and you get no more bubbles, just top off your coolant reservoir and then you put your cap on and you're done. What I like to do is I like to fill just a little bit above the cold fill line on your reservoir bottle, just in case there is bubbles, or after the system's completely settled and you're on to doing something else. If there is any draw out of the reservoir bottle, you're still at the proper level. So literally you ain't got to do it, but just a smidge over the full line, cold full line, and then you're good to go. All right, so I want to talk to you last thing about why I was kind of like 14, 16, 2014. Where is it? Yeah, 2014, they introduced the Twin Cooled models, or was it 2013? No, it was 2014. So 2014, they introduced the Twin Cooled models. The original style coolant pump used a thermostat. Those coolant pumps were notorious for just taking a crap on you. So they do make a retro kit, which I will link. Boop, I'll put that part number right there so that you guys have it. It is a complete kit. The only thing you need to buy is coolant. So if you have a 14 to a 16 and you have the old style pump that has, just taken a dump on you, there is a retro kit to the new style pump. Now, do you want to tackle it? That's entirely up to you, but that is a seriously involved process. These fairing lowers have to come apart. You have to cut some clamps off. You have to reroute a bunch of stuff. So it is a very involved process. On the earlier models, you can still do twisting the throttle, turning it on. It will energize the fans and it will energize the pump. It just doesn't quite circulate the fluid the same. So you kind of have to fill and kind of let that kind of do its thing. And then you can go back and top it off, come back and top it off. Do that a few times, but it doesn't circulate. This is more of a free-flowing, so it's kind of like an open thermostat design. The earlier version was a thermostat, and it had to reach a certain temperature, obviously, before the thermostat opened. And then, then the coolant would flow through. These newer styles, they just flow, and the fans are determined by head temp, obviously, so they'll kick on when the head temp reaches a certain temperature, and then it'll cool it down. So I think they kick on at 235, I think is what it is. When the coolant gets to 235, it'll kick on. And it cools it down pretty fast. With all that said, that was the little caveat right there at the beginning of the video. If you have a 14 to a 16, while the energizing the pump and the system still works the same, it doesn't necessarily flow the exact same. You still can do it. It just takes a little bit longer. This entire process, if I wasn't filming this, probably 30, 45 minutes at max. You really want to make sure that you wait till all the bubbles are completely out of that. You're getting all the air out of the system, so that when you do fill your reservoir bottle up, that you know that is just that, the reservoir, that the system is full. There is no air in the system. So with all that said, I got a lot of work to do tonight, and that's it. How to flush your coolant system. So, hope you stay cool. See what I did there? And yeah, I'm out. Well, not really. I'm just kidding. I gotta go.